Hello
Hello
there.
there.
Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And welcome to Season 19 of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. The Bad Batch Season 3. We're doing it. We're doing the Bad Batch Season 3. Once again, not a very long period between when this released and when this came out. So these three, I know, all came out on the same day. Yeah, they came out as of our recording. Actually, let me see. As of when this comes out on Friday, the 20th, tomorrow will have been 7 months since these three episodes released. So it's been quite a while. It
has.
Like, not as long as other stuff might have been, but it has been long enough for us. And I'm so excited to cover the as of now final adventures of Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, Omega, and Echo. And Jacob, I actually want to throw it over to you because you, I know that you had been busy earlier this year and you had only seen these three. So everything after this episode from Bad Batch Season 3 is going to be new territory for Jacob. I've seen it all, and I'm excited to see what he thinks about it, but everything from here on out is going to be new stuff for Jacob.
Not even these three. The first two I had seen, I fell off of it. I got very busy. I was very busy last spring. So this episode 3 today, what was it called? Shadows of Tantiss. I mean, we're gonna get into this episode. We're gonna talk about it. We're definitely gonna talk a lot about it. But I gotta tell you, I was jumping out of my chair watching this one. I was blown away by Shadows of Tantiss. I was very happy with it.
It's extremely tense. Jacob, why don't you break down Confined for us?
All right, so Confined. We're opening up Season 3 of the Bad Batch. We open on a new class shuttle, I believe, flying through a storm to Mount Tantiss. But the shuttle crashes in the jungle in the storm before reaching the base. The clones, or the troopers inside, I should say, because they're not all clones at this point. The troopers inside do survive, but their distress calls to the Tantiss base are ignored by Dr. Hemlock, who says that if they're outside the perimeter, then they're as good as dead on account of the jungle creatures. We cut to Omega, who wakes up in her cell, and she's doing her work with Emery, with Nala Se. She's paying some visits to the Lurka Hounds. She has work feeding the Lurka Hounds. And she's also paying some visits to Crosshair, who is being held on Mount Tantiss after he was taken in after shooting and killing an Imperial officer, as we remember in the last season. So she's making the rounds, but when she's down in the stable for the second time, she finds out that a Lurka Hound that she has made friends with, and nicknamed Batcher, is scheduled to be put down. The droid that works the stables tells her that. Now, she is very upset about this, and she manages to outsmart and overpower the stable working droid, and she electrocutes it before releasing Batcher. However, Hemlock and Emery then come in, and Hemlock is very angry with Omega. He is also very angry with him, and Omega comes back at Hemlock, saying that she knows why she's here, that it's because of she knows why she's here. It's because that Hemlock is trying to control Nala Se, all that stuff that we started to unravel. But Hemlock says that he might not be able to hurt her, but that Crosshair may not be so lucky. And he sends her back to her cell on high restrictions to end the episode.
Indeed. In Paths Unknown, we flash back to the other side of the Bad Batch equation, with Hunter and Wrecker going to the planet Deveron with a captured Pike who had betrayed the Durand family, yes, them, on Deveron, in order to cash in a favor from Roland Durand, who, if you recall, Omega, for reasons I still don't understand, spared in Season 1. Roland and his mother Issa, voiced by Angelica Houston of all people, send Hunter and Wrecker on a lead they have to a planet called Setron, which is not where Omega, of course, is being held. That would be Wayland on Mount Tantiss, but it was the site of a former Imperial laboratory run by Royce Hemlock. They quickly meet three abandoned clone cadets, Deke, Mox, and Stack, who have been surviving ever since the Empire did what they call a base Delta Zero, or a complete total destruction of the base on Setron.
Not just any
They,
destruction, an orbital bombardment.
yeah, orbital bombardment.
Just wipe it out.
And just completely wipe it out. They on their way to on their way to they what did I say? They Hunter Wrecker and wait, give me a second. Yeah, Hunter Wrecker and Deke go to one of the former base, which is currently crawling with a creation of Dr. Hemlock's called Slither vines, which are basically just sentient vines.
Like straight out a Little Shop of Horrors type of vibe.
Yes,
like they've got these little mouths, and it's we'll get into it. It's quite something.
Yeah, and so but Mox and Staktra instead go to the Havoc Marauder, intending to take the Batch's ship off of the planet to find a new future for themselves. Hunter gets some data, but not anything that will help lead them to Omega. But he and Deke and Wrecker are pinned down by Slither vines and also some sort of a maw creature. I don't think it's a Sarlacc, but
Sarlacc type creature. That feels like an entire designation in Star Wars at this point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not.
We've had our fair share of Sarlacc type creatures.
Yeah, it's not confirmed to be a Sarlacc. So I'm going to say
Sarlacc. It might be
creature,
part of the Slither. I interpreted it as being part of the Slither vines. I'm not sure though.
I wasn't sure, but yeah,
it doesn't really matter. It's not the most
really matter. But Mox and Stack eventually decide to rescue the three other clones from the maw of whatever creature that is, as Hunter and Wrecker promises to find them safe refuge on Pabu if they want it. In shadows of Tantiss, tensions rise on Mount Tantiss as a seemingly very special guest will be visiting. The base very soon. Dr. Hemlock requires Nalisay's assistance. With greeting the guest, whoever it is who's arriving on Tantiss. So he leaves Emery in charge of Nalisay's lab. Nalisay, clearly worried about this, orders Omega to make an escape because she knows that Omega's blood sample, which she has been covertly destroying, cannot make it into the hands of the Empire. Nalisay encourages Omega to take her data pad and to use it to form an escape, and to use it to attempt an escape. Omega rallies Crosshair, who eventually reluctantly agrees to escape with her as they covertly go through the halls of Tantiss trying to make an escape. They eventually escape through the Lurkahound. Kennel, getting out into the jungle, but with the Empire in hot pursuit as the guest, revealed to be Emperor Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, lands on Mount Tantiss and examines some project that he and Dr. Hemlock are working hard at. Something he says could not be more important in securing the future of the Empire. Something called Project NECROMANCER. Anyway, Omega and Crosshair escape into the jungle where they find the crashed New Class shuttle, where they try to fix it but fail and sort of camp out there until the Empire eventually finds them. Omega manages to steal the shuttle from the Imperials, and she and Crosshair, along with Batcher, who got to live free in the wild, who eventually joined them on the shuttle. They are quickly being chased. They quickly are chased in the air by V-Wings, but the V-Wings are called off when Omega's blood sample gets analyzed by the Empire, and Dr. Hemlock realizes that Omega's blood is the blood he needs to successfully make M-count transfers with no degradation. Omega and Crosshair in the New Class shuttle jump to hyperspace, with Dr. Hemlock vowing to scour the galaxy until he finds Omega and can bring her back alive. What a triple season premiere we got. I remember when all three of these came out, I was stunned by all three of these, but especially, I will say, I've watched Confined. This is my third time now watching Confined. I've watched every other episode only once before this, but I watched Confined a second time because it was just so tantalizing. But I remember shout out to Tantiss at the end of it. I was just stunned. I remember just sitting there being like, wow.
Yeah.
The big thing, and we'll get to this later, is wow, I cannot believe they got out off of Tantiss that soon.
Yeah, same. I thought that it would be a lot longer, but I'm kind of glad that it ended up that way because
I think it actually we'll get to this later, but I think that ultimately for the story was a good decision.
Yeah. And now we got a whole season.
All right.
Kind of work with, which is amazing, I think.
Yeah. And you have no idea what's coming at the like in this season anyway. There are totally so many twists and turns. Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I think we should just take it from the top. I mean, Confined, talk about a great way to open a season. I feel like it doesn't try to tackle too much this episode, just gives us the lay of the land, Omega, Crosshair, just the bare necessities of what we really need to get the story going with a lot of urgency. And I think right off the bat, the opening sequence, I think it's just, I mean, you want to talk about a show showing that it has maturity, showing that this means business. I think the opening sequence is such a flex of the animation. I think, just all the rain and the flickering lights at the crash site. It really is very beautiful. And I really enjoyed that. And I think, from the beginning, the Bad Batch was kind of a tour de force of how far the Lucasfilm animation, especially the style of animation that we kind of trace back through the Clone Wars, how far that's come. I'm a big fan. Excuse me.
Yeah. There are these great episodes of the Bad Batch, and I think like there have been these great, I think Star Wars animation gets to do this, where they're almost like, I feel like they're like tone poems, for lack of a better word. And I feel like Confined is a tone poem. Because nothing really, and I'm not saying this derogatorily, I'm just saying, like, objectively, let's look at it. Nothing really happens to advance the overall story forward, but this is one of the most vital episodes of this season, in my opinion, to establish exactly what Mount Tantiss is and why it's so bad. It's not 100. Just any other Imperial facility. This is a horrible, haunting place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Omega, we see her here, she has so much defiance still, but she's up against the hardcore, brainwashing, the demoralization, Emery literally coming in and telling her, oh, you're not a prisoner, you're the farthest thing from a prisoner. And yet, it's unbelievable, what the situation that she finds herself in. And I think you're absolutely right. Like this, everything they do to set the tone, that repeating motif of the water dripping in the faucet, just all the shots of her,
it's so good.
Scrubbing scratching out the days. And I mean, we want to talk about Eli. Who did the music? Is this Kevin Kiner?
This is the Kiners.
Oh my gosh.
Kevin Kiner and his two kids, Sean and Deanna.
Shout out to the Kiners. You got to be kidding me. I mean, talk about the music this first episode.
This music rips.
Just the meandering minor key melodies, the frosty, cold layered sound.
There's a motif that I'm calling like the imprisoned in Mount Tantiss motif. I don't know what that actually is called.
I hear it in my head right now. It's amazing.
Haunting.
It's so good.
Terrifying. The Kiners constantly hit it out of the park.
Absolutely.
And the biggest crime the next Star Wars animated show can commit is not having them as the composers. They deserve it. It's
just a testament. It's a testament to them, just how varied, each of the scores have been, the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, and even, the Bad Batch score, I think season 1, it started out feeling much more like the Clone Wars. Yeah. And then they evolved it into its whole own thing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Of course, we also have to mention the 3 other series they've done. Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, and Ahsoka.
Yeah, I mean every one of them have been fantastic.
Yeah, every one of them have been fantastic.
But I mean, it just like the music you're talking about here. it just fits the sinisterness and the foreboding of Mount Tantiss, of this whole medical prison complex, just the stark, shiny gray interiors. It just fits it so well. And they do such a good job. It really does.
Yeah. It's fantastic. What I also really appreciate, we have some exposition from Emery explaining exactly what Wayland is like.
Yeah.
And she says, it is far safer in here than out there.
Yeah.
And what I love about that line is she's technically right.
Yeah.
It is probably physically safer for Omega than even with the batch.
Yeah. That's all part of the propaganda setup,
But of course, the eternal question with the Empire is, what kind of safety are we talking about?
Yeah, totally.
Like, she is still a prisoner. Omega is there's this weird dichotomy with the batch, which is Omega is emotionally safer when she's physically more in danger.
Yeah,
because of how the Bad Batch
yeah.
conducts their lifestyle.
But I mean, as we find out, even just being in the complex, even when she's under the tutelage and the protection of Nala Se, where as long as Hemlock needs Nala Se, nothing bad can happen to Omega. Even then, she's in mortal danger because Nala Se is kind of working overtime to make sure that no one else discovers the truth about her, as we will come to see. But no.
And now the great thing is what I think is great, which is that season 1, the Empire was after Omega because they think they thought the Bat kind of just stole her from the Kaminoans, even though she wanted to go, and like it was important for maintaining the Kaminoan cloning program and all that kind of stuff going on. Then Kamino went bye-bye. Then season 2 was to ensure compliance with Nala Se. That's why they need Omega. But at the end of this one, it changes yet again. It changes yet again another time, which is now they need her, like Nala Se, whatever. They need her for blood. Now they need her for blood. So the reason has changed now twice to, I think, steadily more, increasingly haunting and scary reasons why they need her. So that's the thing. Like, them needing her alive inherently makes the Empire a lot more dangerous than if they just wanted her dead.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Because their resolve to capture her is going to be fucking scary. And I'm not saying that as like somebody who like I'm saying that as like I would be saying that even if I hadn't seen the rest of the season. Like that's not a reach to make.
Absolutely not. I mean, we see that even, I guess not exactly, but yeah, I mean, even in the lab, when she's with Nala Se, like danger is all around for Nala Se, for Omega, for everyone, even for Emery, in a way, even for Hemlock, because he's got the Emperor to answer to, and when we get that first conversation in the lab, where they're going in and she's like, oh wait, why are you? Omega's like, hey, why are you destroying my sample? And Nala Se says, don't tell anyone. It's safer this way. And just
no, it's like, what sample? I didn't see a sample.
Yeah, but it's like both of them are kind of trying to stay as much as possible while saying as little as possible. I think just because they're so afraid of the power of the Empire, the power of Hemlock, the power of the Emperor.
As they should be.
Yeah, as they should be.
Like one of the themes of this show.
It's petrifying.
One of the themes of this show, I really do think, and we've seen this in previous seasons as well, but I love that we're tripling down on this in season 3. Which is like, look at that blood test sampling, machine, the one that analyzes them. It's a circle surrounded by like little stray cogs. It's the Imperial insignia. It's like, and that's not something that I just noticed. Like that, other people absolutely noticed that before me. I'm just pointing it out. But yeah, the nature of Tantiss, which is that even though Hemlock is a scientist, and even though he likes to think he only speaks in scientific, crude, logical terms,
he's an ideologue above all else.
He's still a totalitarian leader. He is still a fascist leader.
Yeah,
and
that's the difference between Nala Se and Hemlock.
Yes, is that Hemlock has bad morals. Nala Se, as up until pretty recently, didn't really have any morals.
I mean, she's pretty, like, only just now, I think, is she kind of awakening to the evils of the Empire and sort of what she's been part and parcel to all along,
late, but,
all along with the Clone Trooper program.
Because of the whole, because of Hemlock's authoritarian control over this place, it is incredibly frightening, and is incredibly scary, and he's incredibly ruthless, and he maintains that environment well. But what he fails to understand, and as is a theme with the show a lot, of course, is that you can fascist structure all the way you want, but any structure is made up of people.
Yeah.
And everybody is going to have their own intentions, regardless of what you want them to be.
Especially in the Empire, you could almost argue, as with many kind of totalitarian police states, on a certain level, that's almost as much of a feature as it is a bug. I mean, we were talking about, you were talking about Cassian Andor last week. Look no further than Andor to see, what the Empire is all about in that respect. And we even see it here a little bit too, where the Emperor says in episode 3, the Emperor says, there are even those within the Empire working against, what we're working on here on Tantiss.
Well, that's not exactly what he says. We'll get to that, what he says, which I think is really funny, actually, for a bunch of reasons. Which is actually, there are some even in the Empire that won't agree with what we're doing here, so we need to keep it a secret. Which is a little bit different. But I get your point.
Yeah. I feel like the Empire is made up of infighting, and, as much as there is the incredibly, relentless level of propaganda and, one leader, authoritarian dictatorship fascism, there's also this culture that we see over and over again of just, you can't trust anybody,
I also think that, again, I'm not going to spoil too much of what happens later for your own point, but I'm curious, actually. What are you thinking with this episode, and with sort of Shadows bleeding into Shadows of Tantiss, vis-a-vis Emery?
I'm not really sure what to think of her, because I think we see a lot of flashes of her, really having a lot of compassion and concern for Omega, but then most of the time, she's really drunk the Kool-Aid, despite being a clone. I mean, Crosshair does say about her, you can't just trust. He says something to the effect of, you can't trust her just because it's a clone. Not every clone is your friend. And she proves that. She proves why that's the case over and over again. And yet on some level, she does care about Omega, but she cares more about the Empire and herself, I think. So I don't know. I'm curious to see.
Yeah,
I think that
I will just ask you a question, and I'm subtly teasing something maybe, but I'll just ask you this. Has she drank the Kool-Aid, or has she been force-fed the Kool-Aid?
I mean, that's a good point. I think that's kind of, on some level, I think that's semantics. My point, but by saying that, my point is just that, she is ideologically on some level, or ideologically pretty much from what we hear, but functionally 100% on board with, at the very least, her place in her little niche of the Empire, where she's like, yeah, I'm on board for the most part.
Her story is far
Tantiss.
from over, is what I'll tell you. And
I believe it, because
season, he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I mean, she does she hints at not really having a choice. I think when she's talking to Omega at some point, she does hint at saying, there is something in what she says that is sort of saying, hey, you got to find your place in all this, even if it's not
I-
what you truly want, because you have to survive.
I do
So I'm very
believe.
curious to see. I am very
I
curious
would
to see. I
believe
will
this
say
even
that.
from this episode. I wouldn't say this even from these episodes, but I'll just say it like, again, I'm not spoiling anything. But I do think that Emery has a very severe case of Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. I'm not counting her out. That's what I'll say. I'm not counting her out.
Yeah.
You made sure of that by us having this conversation, but I'm not counting her out.
Yeah, no, don't count her out. Do not count her out. Yeah, I love that. I like this, like, I will completely tell you, when Emery started appearing in season 2, and then the clone, I'm a clone, I'm your sister, Omega, happened at the end of season 2, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. This could go well, or I think it's probably going to go very badly, like in a story direction I don't like. And I'm very impressed with what they did with Emery this season. I think a lot of that, in addition to the writing, which is always superb, for me, is Keisha Castle Hughes, the voice actor for Emery, who diehard Star Wars trivia fans may know this is not Keisha Castle Hughes' first ever Star Wars role.
Really?
She was featured in a live action Star Wars project as a teenager. She played Queen Apailana of Naboo at Padme's funeral. That's completely true.
No kidding, man. No kidding.
In Revenge of the Sith, yeah, it's so this is technically a return to Star Wars. I guess, like, she returned in 2022, so after 17 years as Emery, and the subtleties in her performance, I think, are fantastic, and like of like, of course, the big question with her is whose side is she on, and what will that mean in terms of everything. But I'll get away from that. I will say, I know, no offense, but like, I know which episode is my least favorite of the 3 of these. No offense, Paths Unknown. I just, and I think Shadows is probably my favorite of these 3. But I don't know. Confined has Confined has so much about it, like these slow, deeply methodical shots.
Yeah.
Nothing like we've said so much in this series and in Star Wars, and believe me, I love this as much as the next Star Wars fan. We've had so much whiz-bang action, fast blaster fights, fighting monsters, exploring ruins, blah, blah, blah. And this is so slow and carefully crafted with, like, lingering shots and very precise music. There's just a lot of, like, especially because Star Wars does so much of the opposite, you really notice and feel how well crafted an episode like this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I really, like you said, it just does such a good job of setting the tone and setting the stakes for what's to come in this season, especially with Crosshair, who maybe we should get to.
I think, actually, Crosshair, if you don't mind, I think we should save our Crosshair talk for episode 3, because I think there's a bit more for him there.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to talk about Batcher, actually.
Batcher.
What are your thoughts so far about Batcher?
I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Batcher. I mean, Omega, always ever the animal lover, very much in character for her. But I think this is
really funny, actually, if you think about this in the timeline. This is probably about now. We're probably 18, 20 months after Revenge of the Sith. You know what the next thing that Star Wars timeline we would be going through if we were doing this chronologically? It'd be Jedi Fallen Order with Cal Kestis, the animal murderer.
Yeah, Cal Kestis just absolutely ripping to shreds any animal unfortunate enough to get in his way. Good grief. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think this is a good example of, in Star Wars, this is a great example of Star Wars stories finding a way to tell us, hey, you always are going to want to help the beings, the creatures, the people, whoever they are, help the souls of the galaxy, and sometimes they will come back and find a way to help you. Because for a minute, this just looks pretty kind of naive of Omega, and especially in the eyes of Hemlock, as he tells us. But obviously, he comes back.
She comes back, yeah.
She comes back, yeah. Patrick comes back. So I think it's a perfect example of how, Omega's approach and the entire approach to life and to fighting the fight that a lot of heroes and protagonists have in Star Wars, which is doing so with love. That is really something that it's often talked about as though it's a weakness, it's like how Saw Gerrera does. And yet, ever so often, it turns out to be a strength because the Empire, they never see it coming. They never see the advantages to that. They only see love and selflessness as a weakness.
Yeah.
When in reality,
Yeah.
For Omega, it's not a weakness. That makes her who she is, and she does what she can because of that, as we see. And I think that, I don't know, it's not like
I'll go ahead.
overall, but it's a nice.
I'll go in about Batcher. Your domestication of LH-201 only made her vulnerable.
Yes, exactly.
Emotion and sentiment have no place within these walls. This is like, I remember when I saw this for the first time, I thought it was so genius because, on the surface it's about Batcher, but it's really not about Batcher. It's about the entire Imperial philosophy. It is about there's this Orwellian fascist undertones to it where, because Omega and any reasonable person would believe that what she did was showing compassion and was good. But there's this very compassion is hatred, freedom is slavery, war is peace. The party told you to trust what your eyes, not to trust what your eyes saw and your ears heard. The Empire is quite literally staking the terms of their reality. And, this incredible social Darwinism of you either live strong or you die weak is really is a very good, I think it's a very convincing portrayal. Not convincing as I'm convinced by it or anything like that, but it's a very faithful portrayal to even what George was going for in 77 with what the Empire was supposed to be, with the, inspirations from the Nazis, inspirations from the Soviets, inspirations, even from America. I think it's incredibly well done.
Yeah, it's a small but meaningful addition to the story. I'll say that.
Yeah, I will say this is just a fun moment, and I feel like we should do better. Well, at least I should do better. I'm not going to speak for you, of course.
Do we have anything else for this episode, or should we get on to Paths Unknown?
See. Let me check. I will say that I do like how this episode, even though it is an incredibly dark episode, ends with hope. Ends with Emery giving Omega back the straw Lula.
Yeah.
Ends with Omega seeing Batcher outside and knowing that she's okay because she rescued her.
Yeah.
That is always what Star Wars is about. No matter how dark it gets, there's always hope. And I think it displays that incredibly well.
Yeah. Especially for Omega at such a young age. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, given everything she's been through already, we kind of know what she's capable of, and yet, I mean, regardless, she's a child. This is It's kind of just when I really think about it, I almost get a little emotional. Just it's hard not to, just thinking about everything that she's enduring.
She's gotten robbed of a regular child's life, and it's incredibly saddening. I will also just mention the fact, and warning to everybody, you'll probably hear me talking more and more about this as we get closer to a certain event that's happening in around a month and a half here in the United States. I will just say, emotion and sentiment have no place within these walls. Sounds awfully familiar. So you're saying inside that institution, only facts matter. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. So you're saying facts don't care about your feelings. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And there's always it's funny because, Hemlock, he's entirely he's an ideologue.
Yeah, he doesn't go based on facts, but
which is hilarious. And he's kind of trying to do the impossible scientifically, but
absolutely.
That's neither here nor there.
But we'll get to that in the next episode. Yeah. Want to go to Paths Unknown?
Paths Unknown. Paths Unknown. Now, this isn't. I'm not really sure how to feel. How do you feel about this episode? I'm not sure how to feel about this episode.
I think this was a necessary episode, but like it is my least favorite of the three, mostly just because I think the thematic meat on the bones is there's the least there in this episode of the three. But I don't think this is bad. I don't think I will spoil this for you. I don't think any episode in season 3 of the Bad Batch is bad. Okay. I think season 3 of the Bad Batch is the most consistent season of this show, because there have been a few in seasons 1 and 2 that I just haven't loved. This one is all like, I like them all at least. This is definitely towards the lower tier of my ranking of this season. Probably, I don't know. I haven't done that, but so I want to talk about one of the I have to do this. It's one of the worst characters in Star Wars. You have no idea how angry I was on that morning, on February 21st, when I just finished the first episode. Like, scintillating stuff, great stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then I see the asshole known as Roland Duran's face on my screen.
Man, tell us how you really feel, Eli. For me, that was my favorite part of the episode. Was the part in the Durands like crime court. That was quite honestly my favorite part.
I mean, it's like I will say I really like Issa's design, and Angelica Houston, I think, does a very good job in this bit part of Issa Durand, who is obviously somebody who is mentioned quite a bit in that first episode in season 1, but we only got a chance to see, in this episode. But I was hoping that I would never see Roland Durand again, just because I find him incredibly annoying. And look, this is the last time we'll see him in the show, and I guess I have to accept a little bit that maybe he was a little bit necessary for the development of this season. I don't like it, but there is a reason they put him in. I can now one of the biggest things with Infested that I was annoyed about, what was here? There was no it didn't feel like it advanced the story forward in any way. It didn't feel like it had any meaningful character development or story development or lore development in it.
To have Durand in here?
No, it's Infested, the first season.
Okay.
And I begrudgingly have to admit now that if only to have Roland alive here and knowing the batch so he could lead them to Setron, so they could find Deke, Mox, and Stack. I guess there was a purpose to him.
I don't know. I think there's something kind of interesting about his character, sort of a Nepo baby crime lord who kind of really wants to be, all about the, space gangster, highfalutin space drug dealer lifestyle, but in reality, he might not really have what it takes, and he's kind of trying to find his way and trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. I understand why that's I feel that. I understand why that's compelling. I don't really have a huge problem with that, I feel.
Yeah, my own problems with Toro Calican. Sorry, with Roland Durand.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the same character. but
I don't know.
I will say, when they get sent to Setron, which I found out the planet, they never actually say in the episode, I was just finding it while doing research on Wikipedia. You immediately notice when we get onto the Marauder. One thing about the Marauder stood out to me immediately. That fucking ship felt empty. Because comparatively, it is.
I mean, they're down 2 from last season.
More than 2. They're down 4.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Tech's gone. Crosshair and Omega are captured. Echo's not with them.
Yeah.
This is not a bad batch. This is a bad duo.
Yeah.
They're hurt.
You might even say that they're running a bit of a skeleton crew, so to speak. I'm sorry. I had to.
It's fine. I've made worse jokes than that. But, like, and I feel like you can feel that a lot through this episode, which is like, you know, like Hunter and Wrecker are great and they're good at what they do. And I do believe, and they actually are, I like two of the more combat centric members of the batch, obviously with Crosshair, whereas Tech and Echo are more technical vibes. But they cannot do everything that the batch could do previously.
Yeah, no,
like,
absolutely
they
not. Absolutely
are,
not.
Even with the help of the cadets, it feels like they're more desperate than ever. And frankly, the same thing is true about their emotional state.
Oh yeah,
that Hunter is like so fucking determined to get that girl back, and it is a I do appreciate the Durands sequence only because it shows exactly how far Hunter is willing to go to get Omega. He's willing to work with some, let's just say, less than reputable people for any chance of getting his sister back.
Yeah, I mean that's the bond that they've established, and that's the family that they are. Is that we've kind of established that, and it's no surprise to see him working with
it's still heartwarming though.
The Durands and whoever else. Oh yeah, and it's interesting too to kind of see him have to take a different approach than what they're used to.
Yeah. So we get on to Setron. By the way, I love the jungle vibes of this planet. I think it's so cool. I think there's danger everywhere. Like not just, of course, from what naturally inhabits the planet, but what the Empire has created on the planet. I think is a really fucking cool aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it's really the Empire's they've created this, ecological nightmare of these, sentient carnivorous vines that want to kill you if you go near them.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Have I mentioned that I'm a dentist?
Yeah, good one. I didn't find it crazy compelling though. I mean, I don't know. We meet Mockstack and Deke. I don't know. What do we think about this cast of characters, Eli?
So I'm gonna. This is a mildish spoiler, but it's not gonna do anything for you because you know no context around it. This is not the last we'll see of them. This is not the last we'll see of these cadets.
Okay. This gives me some hope because I didn't have I didn't have much great to say about these characters, but obviously
this is not the last we will see of. I'm not incredibly recurring, but they're in. I think they're in probably like 3 or 4 more episodes, probably.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get a little more out of them then.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit more out of them, and so let me check. I'll check stacks. 2 more episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
2 more episodes this season. I will say I think it's a great detail. One of them is voiced by. Well, I know. So Deke is voiced by. Let's see. Well, I'll say sorry. Stack is voiced by Julian Dennison, and so is Deke. Mox. I don't know if you recognize Mox's voice. Probably not.
I did not.
That was indeed Daniel Logan.
Oh, okay.
Original voice and live action portrayal of young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones and the Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So I think it's a great little homage, like a great little detail that they had him reprise his role as he's been getting older, obviously, as an older version of a Jango clone. Yeah, I think that there's such a, yet again where I was talking about the Bad Batch doubling and tripling down on these themes that they're incredibly consistent with keeping.
Yeah.
I love how it's immediately clear that these 3 clones are part of the Bad Batch. Not like the crew, but the ensemble of the show. They are yet more people who have been left behind.
Yeah. They've been left behind by the Empire. They've been scraping around to survive, and I mean,
and who were built again for one thing, just like all the other clones, and it was no idea how to construct a future.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in their faces, you can hear it in their voices. All three of these young clones, they've been just scraping and scrabbling to survive, and like you said, they're having trouble kind of even envisioning what comes next, if there's anything different, and then the batch comes along and they kind of introduce, as they often do, as we see Omega do with Crosshair, they introduce that little spark to kind of get them moving, thinking, and just reintroducing hope, which I like, because that is what the Bad Batch kind of does best. A lot of the time is bring about hope and spread hope in this era of the Empire just seeming absolutely crushingly infallible.
Speaking of having the batch back this episode, what I love is a little bit of banter that Hunter and Wrecker have with each other, but also with the cadets. My favorite one is like when one of the cadets tells him, "Don't shoot it; it'll only get hostile." Like the Slithervines, they'll only get hostile while the Slithervines are attacking them. And Wrecker goes, "You mean it's not already hostile?" And the cadets go, "No," which is just really like. I forgot how much the banter of these guys is part of the charm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their missions as well.
It's also kind of infuriating though, because as soon as they say, "Don't touch the vines," Wrecker's going to touch one of those vines, like
by accident, probably. Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah. Look, dude's a big guy. Like, what can you do? But yeah, we also get a fantastic parallel, I think, episode, because you notice how many shots we flash to real Lula, the real plush Lula. like contrast that to, of course, how important in the first episode the straw Lula is that Omega makes. Lula is this symbol that binds the batch together, even when they're physically separated. And it's no mistake that the show, especially in these two episodes that need to emphasize how apart they are, emphasizing that.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. I think as well, see a lot of the recurring, we see, once again, the recurring theme of the other two clones, what Mox and Stack, plotting or having that internal struggle of, after spending so long, after having been betrayed so completely by the Empire, having to make that same decision with the batch when they say, we have the opportunity to just completely leave them behind. We have this ship, we can go wherever they want. And then they choose not to, ultimately, because they see the batch leading by example.
Yeah.
And their reasoning is that they're going after one of their own. We have the same opportunity to make a better choice, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's great to see how the batch is inspiring others. That's all I have for the beginning for this episode. One of like it's a more action oriented episode, which is fun. The action's fun, the banter's fun, but there's not as much meat on the bones thematically here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I was underwhelmed by this episode. I felt like so far the new personalities didn't feel interesting, meaningful, or compelling. I think they failed to bring out anything new or different in our main cast of characters. And I don't know, overall it just felt kind of the plot felt pretty full of cliches and well trodden beats and ideas, with throwing a grenade in the mouth of a giant Sarlacc type monster, Wrecker tripping up the whatever they're not supposed to trip up, all this stuff. I felt, man, we've really seen a lot of this before, and not in a good way this time around.
Yeah, I understand that.
I was not a huge fan of that, but yeah. So
Shadows of Tantiss.
Oh my gosh, this is where it gets This is where it gets
This
unbelievable.
episode,
This is an amazing episode.
What I loved immediately about starting out with the episode is we start Shadows of Tantiss the same way we start Confined. Omega staring out the window in her cell, and the door opens, and this time I said along with Emery, "Good morning, Omega." I said that along with her because it was so fucking predictable, and I mean that in the best way. This is the monotony. That's the thing. Like, Omega is constantly in danger, but she's also like, it's just monotony. The same thing is happening every day. I would be surprised if the only way she knows that, like, how many days she's had is by the hack marks she's been making. Like, this is a like we got teased on Tantiss very end of season 1. We spent a tiny bit of time on Tantiss in season 2, but this, I feel like, even just with these 2 episodes, is the most time we spent on Wayland in Mount Tantiss in the entire show.
Yeah.
Like we really get a full study, a full location study, if you will, on Mount Tantiss and what it means to the Empire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the opening scene, I think, just immediately, this episode, you just know. I mean, Nala Se, finally going rogue, just the difference in her voice that we hear. She has this sort of desperate, quavering, rising tone. It's really just amazing and haunting, after she spends so long being, this soft-spoken, extremely neutral, extremely reserved personality who's just trying to keep herself and Omega out of harm's way, kind of working from the shadows. And then all of a sudden she makes her move. And that, to me, I mean, what did you think of that scene? Because that scene really left an impression on me. I was really a big fan. I was like, okay, Nala Se, I apologize. I was not familiar with your game. Like, this was for her, this was her big move. And I loved every second of it.
Yes and no. There's more story to tell with Nala Se as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not her big move so far.
Yeah, and people listening will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's still more to come with her. But Nala Se is interesting mostly because, and look, we've seen her betray the Empire in other ways. She let the batch escape in the very first episode with Omega, because she was starting to realize that maybe the Empire didn't have the best intentions for this child.
Yeah.
With Nala Se, I think it's just the tragedy of too little, too late. I mean, the Empire genocided her people, fucking tore apart her planet, imposed martial law around the galaxy, committed another genocide against the Jedi with her knowing and consenting aid.
Yeah.
And only now is she realizing, hey, maybe I don't like these guys so much.
Yeah.
And that is that's an interesting thing, especially because we have seen historically that Kaminoans, at least from our perceptions, are harder to read emotionally.
Yeah.
This is, in my opinion, the deepest dive that we have gotten into a Kaminoan character in Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. By Kaminoan standards, this episode is an emotional outburst for her.
Yeah.
And I love every second. I love every second of it.
Yeah, no, and I think it's really interesting that, there are all these characters, and Nala Se is a fantastic character, and there's another one that'll appear near the end of the season, who I won't spoil, who, like, a lot of these characters that are not Hemlock on one side and the Batch on the other side, and by the Batch I mean the mainline Batch, Omega, Hunter, Wrecker, and Echo. All the others exist in these various shades of gray, where, of course, some, like, lean more towards heroism, like Crosshair, spoilers, but some lead more towards villainy, like a certain other character at the end of the season who I'm not going to tell you about. But they've all done things they have either regretted or at least are mixed about doing. And Nala Se is maybe the most interesting one because she does a lot more of the right thing this season than she has. But you're always constantly asking yourself, well, why is she doing this? Is she doing the right thing for the right reason? Or is like she, is the clock striking right twice a day just in the right ways?
Yeah, I think we kind of, as of now, I feel like we don't really know.
Yeah, we don't.
She's such an enigma. We just know
Yeah,
that she cares about Omega for whatever her reasons are. She cares so much about Omega, despite seemingly previously not really giving a toss about any other clone.
Well, Omega was her aide on Camino, so like
that is true.
Like,
let's just say she's come a long way. Let's just say she's come a long way since the Order 66 arc in the Clone Wars. Let's just say
100%. But like, I don't think it's like a sudden like face turn. I don't think this is suddenly Nala Se becoming a good guy or anything like that.
Oh, I didn't mean.
I think this is about her. I'm not saying you were. I think this is specifically about how much she's formed an attachment to Omega specifically.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Jacob, let's address I feel like what is the elephant in the room of this episode?
The Emperor Palpatine shaped elephant in the room, perhaps?
I was actually thinking something adjacent to that, which is, the fuck is Hemlock doing?
I don't know. We always get closer, and they never want to give us the whole thing. They never want to give us the whole
load.
And
I told Jacob this before the recording, but we're not going to get a whole lot more.
That's too bad. That is too bad.
And it's my one criticism of the season, which, look, we hear M counts, we hear no degradation, we hear Project Necromancer. We hear Palpatine say there is no project more important to the Empire. We see the Zillo Beast. We can put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And craft an approximation of what's happening here.
Fair enough.
Which
we understand on some level what's happening.
Which I think is fine for the first two seasons. But I do really wish that it was just stated more bluntly, even near the end of the season, exactly what they're doing. Exactly, that is, that the Emperor, that Omega's blood, for some reason, is a good staging ground for the transfer of midichlorians from one body to another to allow a clone to maintain the Force, because Palpatine wants to still be able to use the Force after he transfers into another body after death.
Yeah.
That is never explicitly, nothing about Palpatine's desire to cheat death specifically is explicitly said out loud during this season, and I find that disappointing.
I mean, to be honest, I think it doesn't need to, because if you just parse out what M count transfer means, if you know that means midichlorian count, we have a pretty good idea as well, from The Mandalorian and episode 9. We have some idea of what he's trying to do.
I just guess they constantly were prodding us with this for 2 seasons, and they kept prodding us with this season, and then to go, I don't think we're going to address this, is just a little strange to me.
Well, it's kind of in their interest not to, because it's the big pie in the sky sort of that looming threat and mystery in the background that keeps the audience, it keeps me at least, very hooked in and engaged and curious and hungry and thirsty to know more about just what the heck Hemlock and Palpatine are up to. And another reason that I think in this episode especially, something that I wanted to talk about was Palpatine's, I think it's so very compelling to see the Emperor, so all powerful, so terrifying, so untouchable as he is, as he seems to everyone in this story. There's something that he wants and that he needs so desperately that he's telling Hemlock, I'll give you whatever you want. Just make it happen. That he's telling Hemlock in no uncertain terms, he's saying, I really need this on some level. Like or at the very least, I really want this very badly. And that's not something that we often see from Palpatine. And we see as well how his sort of presence in this episode, it puts pressure on everyone. Like we see Hemlock kind of we see Hemlock, being off balance, off kilter, more emotional than before. That trickles down. We see that in Nala Say, which is, I don't know. I love the way that his presence it turns up the heat on everyone in a really exciting way.
Yeah, I think that there is Palpatine's appearance in this episode is, as a certain senator from Naboo would say, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Yeah. And I just want to, I think it does so much for integrating this episode into the get ready to pay Alden Diaz tapestry of Star Wars, of linking plans that Palpatine has here with plans in Project Stardust and plans in and other plans that the Empire is doing, all under him and his quest for the ultimate domination in every sense of that word possible. And I think the only way that really, I think the reason that is so striking to me, I think the writing for Palpatine here is good, no doubt. I obviously have raved on and on about the writing for Palpatine in season 2 with those Senate episodes in the middle, smack dab in the middle of season 2, which I thought was.
He has so many bars in this show.
Yeah,
he just has amazing lines. He has absolute banger after absolute banger. I love it so much.
But one of the reasons I feel like that his lines work so well is not only because a lot of them are well written, but a lot of them are well spoken by the GOAT himself. God bless Ian McDiarmid.
Lest we forget.
God bless that man for doing this as long as he's been doing it.
Oh yeah.
This is a guy who never has an off day as this character.
Yeah.
Consistently hits these marks. As Snoop Dogg once said in that one clip, this guy doesn't miss. In the battle, he don't miss. In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
Wasn't he saying that about Freak though? I feel like that has aged poorly. Just a quick aside. I feel like that's aged poorly in 2024. Shit. It was just announced that Kendrick Lamar is going to be playing the Super Bowl early next year. We all know what happened.
Yes, and Jared freaked out.
I'm sure he did. I can't wait to
hear. Jared
wait to hear his reaction.
Flipped his shit.
Dude, I flipped my shit when I saw it on my phone. I was like, "Are you serious?"
I was the one who to text Jared about it.
Dude, you lucky dog.
I saw it first, and so where was this? I texted him the video announcement with Jared, and then he texted me back, "Let's fucking go," in all caps.
Dude, shout out to Jared. Shout out to the Nerd Academy podcast.
Shout out to the Dark Jedi, one of the best friends of the show. Now, I think we should talk about the one subject that we really haven't talked about this entire time, but is a character that is going to be extremely important to this season. Maybe, probably, I think, the most important character of this season of the Bad Batch. Jacob, I think we should dedicate the last part of this episode to talking about our good friend, Crosshair.
Crosshair.
He has that infamous line in Confined, which was displayed in some of the trailers, that is one of the best lines I think that Crosshair has ever had, and it's 3 simple words. When he and Omega are arguing about the need to escape, and he just angrily blurts out, "I'm not them."
Yeah.
It is painful to hear.
This is Crosshair. Sorry, continue.
because we realize that he believes that Omega needs him to be the father figure that he cannot provide for her. So much of this season, as you'll see, is about Crosshair has realized that the Empire is no good. No question about it. But the question now becomes, does Crosshair deserve to be redeemed? Does he deserve to seek that redemption?
I don't know if it's a matter of I don't know if deserve is necessarily a useful word in this situation.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying
just about the choices that he makes at this point. You know?
Yeah, I'm not saying that I agree with that frame. I'm saying that's what he's thinking right now. Crosshair believes that's what he says in Confined. I belong in here, he says.
Yeah.
To which Omega defiantly responds, none of us belong in here. Crosshair believes that he has made so many bad mistakes by joining the Empire that whatever punishment he gets for now trying to defy the Empire, he deserves. And not going to talk about too much how this season goes, but you can already see Omega starting to get him out of that mentality.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think, as to your point as well, I mean, coming into this, Crosshair is a broken spirit. He is a broken man. He has been betrayed so profoundly that he can't possibly ignore it, as he had done previously, by the very same Empire that he sacrificed everything, even his chosen family and everyone who he trusted and loved and supported, and who trusted and loved and supported him, that being the Bad Batch. He gave up everything for the Empire. And yeah, they just swept him aside. And I think that he is feeling the weight of that to the point where he can't imagine, like, all of his defiance. He feels like he's used it up. And then Omega is once again bringing about that spark of hope that we so often talk about with her, you know? It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's incredibly inspiring. It's such a great. I love Crosshair's arc in this season and in this show. He's. Yeah. I remember when he was just shooty guy from the arc. He's come such a long way.
And then he is the one. They're in the jungle, and Omega. They get lost, and they get bogged down, and the shuttles are closing in. And Omega says she now is very upset, and she thinks that the day is lost, and she says, I'm a Crosshair, I'm so sorry. And he just says, hey, you gotta let me,
and we're not done yet.
Sit back and let me cook. He says, do you know plans? And we get a little moment of memorializing Tech, a little Tech tribute.
That was actually something I like.
Glorious moment. It's such a glorious moment.
It's clear because it's clear by the next few episodes, but obviously Omega at some point has told him about Tech's death.
I think we can assume that 100%.
I'm saying by the next few episodes, I'm not sure. I think he knows now, but there is a question of, does he know now? I think so, but I don't know the answer is yes.
I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I feel like we could maybe assume that he knows. On the other hand, that's such an interesting confluence of sort of storylines and plot lines and personal developments that you'd think we'd want to see that play out in the show.
Yeah.
You think
and
that
spoiler,
could maybe
we don't.
Point. That could have been an amazing inflection point for Crosshair, but it's a short show. There's only so much you can fit in every episode. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, but I think because of the sheer amount of time, there are so many days, and it's clear that Omega has been visiting Crosshair a lot. I think it's very likely that he knows. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah. Of course, we now get Crosshair developing, which is going to be important in this season, his tremor in his hand.
Yeah.
Likely from a lot of the experiments the Empire has been putting him through. But it's going to be important because Crosshair needs that hand to shoot. That's what he does. Crosshair shoots. And without, especially like the other, I think I was talking about this with one of the friends of the show. I forget who it was, but if you look at, like, Tech had non-combat uses for his super abilities.
Yeah.
Echo did as well. So did Hunter, and so did Wrecker. Crosshair doesn't. Crosshair's entire purpose is to shoot good. And now you've removed one of the essential elements that allows him to do what he was programmed to do.
That's true. That's true.
Which is going to.
I hadn't even considered that, but yes.
Which is going to be a major thing throughout the season of what that tremor means.
That is going to be fascinating to see that play out.
And exactly how he's going to deal with that. It's great. Yeah, no, the escape is very fun, and I think that they handle it extremely well. Like, I remember at the beginning of this episode, I'm like, they're escaping all the Emperors here? Yeah, good luck. But they managed to escape in a very believable way, and it never feels contrived. The breaks they catch, it feels like, oh yeah, it's natural. Like, oh yeah, like a beast runs into another beast in the jungle. Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't, and the way that they get away as well, it doesn't necessarily, it's believable as, not believable is the wrong word, but it works as well because it doesn't take the heat off. It introduces another element that of stacking on to everything that we know, which is now Hemlock and the Empire knows truly why Omega is so important, and that she could be the key to all of this, as George Lucas would famously say.
Yep, if we get Omega right, everything else will be good.
We'll get Omega right, we'll get all the M counts working, and the Emperor will be immortal. Yeah. Omega is the key to all of it. Imagine.
I will also, actually, a couple other notes. First of all, I do love, with regards to Hemlock, this is like the first time we've seen him get rattled.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is normally so calm, but this is the first time we've seen him get rattled, and it's fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to watch how Jimmy Simpson portrays that. I love Jimmy Simpson as Hemlock. I think he's fantastic. And yeah, I think it's fantastic, the job he does portraying just like Hemlock now seemingly starting to crack under the pressure.
Yeah.
I also will just point out that conversation that we were going to have that you mentioned before, which was Palpatine saying there are some within the Empire who may consider what we're doing disturbing, which is why we got to keep it a secret from them. And not to connect it to certain current matters that may or may not be happening in the United States of America. But I will just reiterate that fascists are weird.
Yeah.
The idea that the fundamental idea of we're trying to get these microorganisms to transfer through bodies and not degrade so that our immortal leader can live forever using the tissues and organs of clones to do that, that's weird. Palpatine even acknowledges it himself. He says there are some people who think what we're doing is weird. And the only reason he knows that is because it is. Just mentioning that. Like Palpatine's doing all of this instead of facing his own mortality. Felt the need to point that out.
That is true. I mean, his whole thing is kind of, he never met an enemy he didn't want to crush. Not even death itself.
Absolutely.
And that's his downfall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The hubris. He wants to be God. Yeah. And he gets terrifyingly close to doing it too. He gets terrifyingly close.
Terrifyingly close. Yeah.
And do you have any other thoughts overall about this episode? What do you think?
I think it's incredible. I think it's a great escape episode to get them off Tantiss extremely early, so that the rest of the season can play out. I love the dynamic developing between Omega and Crosshair, and it's exactly what I was hoping for after season 2 when I knew they were going to be stuck together, which is Omega inspiring Crosshair to believe in himself, while Crosshair who is the most resourceful, in my opinion, the person who is most able to like get tricky with stuff and think outside the box. Show Omega, because Hunter, the batch is more creative than most squads, but I still feel like Hunter and his styles are very regimented often.
Yeah.
And I think that Omega learning a different way under Crosshair is extremely valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll see during the season, not only we know the influence that Wrecker has on Omega. We know the influence that Tech has had on Omega.
Yeah.
We know the influence to a certain extent that Echo has had. But we've always seen Hunter as the main influence.
Yeah.
This season, we'll start to see Crosshair rival Omega, rival Hunter, as a major influence on Omega. And I think that is, and I think I'm really interested to see your thoughts, to hear your thoughts about that. That's all I'm
very interested as well. I'm very interested as well. I think, Star Wars is, as many people have pointed out, Star Wars is all about the power of redemptive love, and no one embodies that better right now than Omega.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm very excited to see what she and Crosshair, what kind of crazy hijinks they're going to get up to. I very much am.
Yeah, me too.
A couple of things I wanted to point out.
Yeah,
about this episode that I have to gush about. The music is so good in this episode. I mean, oh my goodness. Also, when the Emperor steps out, when Palpatine steps out, that low rumble of thunder in the background, it's like even nature itself is sort of terrified or revolted by Palpatine and what he represents and what he's trying to accomplish with this visit to Tantiss. Also, the bright blood red crimson of the Royal Guard robes. Looks
so good in animation.
It looks so damn good. And it looks so damn good. And I think they do an incredible job. The storyboarding, the directing, the animation, the art direction, everything. It does such an incredible job of using color very intentionally when we have such a gray, dreary, monotone industrial look on Tantiss, on Mount Tantiss for so much time in the show so far in these seasons, that when we get these amazing bright splashes of color, it signifies that something really important is happening. Also, the Emperor's face, lit up by the laser gates, the glow of the laser gates, that look of just grim determination on his face with the orange glow. Gosh, it's so, that moment really stuck in my mind. That moment really, I was like, okay, this is an Emperor Palpatine moment, if ever there was one. This is a moment for the books for this character.
It is. It's a fantastic episode for this. It's a fantastic. Yeah, it's a fantastic episode, and I look forward to you seeing the rest. That's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Next week, Jacob, myself, and special guest Brennan Marr from the Star Wars podcast Page Turners. They were not.
Such a good name. Such a good name for a podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to Brennan. We will be looking at episodes 4 and 5 of Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which I will spoil the titles of right now. Episode 4, A Different Approach, and Episode 5, The Return. I'm very excited to see what Jacob thinks about these episodes, which I remember loving quite a bit. In the meantime, you can follow us everywhere at In a Galaxy Pod. You can follow me everywhere at my link tree, linktr.ee/_fan32. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts, we will be there. If you want to email us with any of your thoughts or questions or trivia or whatever you want us to talk about, you can do so at swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Epic Confrontations just recorded a new episode today. They'll probably be up in the next, if it's not up, I think it'll probably be up probably a week from the posting of this episode. I don't exactly know. It depends on some stuff that I'm still waiting to get into the edit. Bangers and Smash versus Sheath Shills. It was a very fun match to record today, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I think there's nothing else. And all that's left to say is may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.